Some time ago, in a classroom somewhere that you have never been, fractions, decimals, and percents stayed in their own groups. They refused to work together and didn't think they could speak the same language. They were afraid of each other. They lived this way for a long time during their school career. Then, after the Age of Enlightenment, along came a teacher who presented a different view of the classroom, a view where all numbers can belong and work with the others. However, these numbers didn't just think that they could work together. "We're too different," they all said. "We can't work with the others. We can't understand what they're saying." For they had always worked alone, with their own kind, and didn't think that they could work with the others. You can work together. You can all get along," said the teacher. "I know it. I have seen it happen. Let me tell you how." "No, we can't. Why don't you just let us be? We're fine. We don't need to work together. We can work all alone just fine." "Well, if I let you work alone, then you will never learn a special secret. A secret that I know and would love to share with you. However, I need you to listen with open minds, and I need you to pay careful attention." 2/3 said, "Well, I guess I can listen at least." 0.75 said, "If 2/3 is good enough to listen, then I can listen too." 50% replied, "I'll do better than that. I'll listen and pay attention." "Okay," said the teacher. "Let's look at this picture. Fraction, how do you name this figure?" 1/10, said the fraction. "Decimal, do you have a 1/10? asked the teacher. "Yes, I do," replied one of the decimals. "See, here we have the same amount. It works for both of you," said the teacher. Percent said, "Okay, that's all well and good, but what about me?" The teacher replied, "You do fit in too. Just you watch and see. How much is 10% worth?" The percent replied, "Well, I am 10%, and it means that if there were 100 of something, I am worth 10 of that 100. Said the teacher, "Say that there were only 10 of something. What would 10% of that be?" "Well, 1, said the percent. "So that would be 1 of 10, right?" asked the teacher. Fraction shouted out, "Hey, 1 of 10 is 1/10. Decimal said next, "Hey, I have a 1/10 too." "Now," said the teacher, "can you all see that you have something in common?" Percent asked, "That works for one of my numbers, but what about the rest of them?" The teacher replied, "It works for all your numbers. All of you represent the same thing. Just sometimes you have different names to show the same number." Decimal asked, "How can I find my other names?" "Well, Decimal, all you have to do is to change your name to percent is to move your decimal mark 2 places to the right and add the percent sign." "Wow, that's easy," exclaimed the decimal. "But what about changing me into a fraction?" "Well, that's not too bad either. All you have to do is write the name you have said for yourself. Say you're 0.35. Well, that means you're 35 hundredths, which looks like 35 over 100. "Awesome," said the decimal. Fraction stated next, "Okay, you can turn decimal into me, but sometimes I don't have the same name as decimal. How can you change my name?" There's a small little trick you can pull. All you do is divide your top number by your bottom number. For example, 3/5 would be 3 divided by 5. When you work out your problem, you're 0.6, which is another name for 3/5, by the way, 6/10. Cool, said the fraction. Teacher continued, when you have changed into a decimal, then you do what the decimal does and move that decimal point 2 times to the right. Percent said, you can change everyone into me. How can you change me into a fraction? The teacher replied, first you have to become a decimal before you can become a fraction. How do I do that? Asked the percent. Do you remember how decimal changed into a percent? Asked the teacher. Sure I do. All he does is move his decimal over 2 places and add my sign, declared the percent. Well, the teacher said, you do the exact opposite. You drop your sign, then move your decimal 2 places to the left. Remember, your decimal may be hiding behind your last number, but he's always there. Wow, said the percent. I bet I can get to fraction. I do what decimal does. Then I say the name, and then I write it. That's right. We can all get along now, exclaimed the decimal. That's right, said the teacher. You can get along. You are all the same, though sometimes you have different names.